Hello Turkaholics, thank you all for listening to this episode of Football a la Turca. This is Season 2, Episode 4, covering Matchday 4 of the 2019-2020 Turkish Super League season, recorded on Tuesday, September 17th, 2019. I am your host, Kaan Bayazit, and I am once again joined by my co-hosts, Yakup, Marufoglu, Burak Sezgin, and Özer, Dindjer. Guys, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you, sir. It's great to be here again. Smiling today.
Yo, thanks for having me, man.
It's a lovely Tuesday evening.
And of course, we're coming off the back of a successful international break. 2 wins for Turkey. We already covered that, Burak and I did, last week. And our promised transfer episode is not come yet, guys. I'm sorry. It's been hectic. It's been a hectic 2 weeks, of course, with our European previews. I hope you've checked those out. But if you haven't yet, go back and check those out. We previewed Group C, J, and K in the Europa League, of course, the groups for Trabzonspor, Basaksehir, and Besiktas. And then we also previewed Group A in the Champions League for Galatasaray. That one dropped just this past Sunday. Özer, I spoke to you for that. You went back and listened to it, and you're psyched, I bet, because, of course, we are just about to kick off the real European football. The group stages in both the Champions and Europa League are about to kick off, and tomorrow your Galatasaray is in action away at Club Brugge. Our co-host Umut Naderi, who has just moved to the UK, will be in attendance for that match. He's traveling to Belgium tomorrow, and he's going to sit in that cold away section up top high in het Jan Breidel Stadion for the Brugge Galatasaray match. And of course, Trabzonspor are playing, I believe, away at Getafe, Basaksehir away at AS Roma, and Besiktas away at Slovan Bratislava. So if I'm not mistaken, all 4 the Turkish clubs in Europe are away this week. Someone fact check me on that. But Özer, I know for a fact you're psyched for the Champions League to begin.
Oh, man. Totally. This is actually the best time for me in the Champions League. It's the night before match day 1. Everyone is on a blank sheet. Anything can happen. And I'm just kind of fantasizing about all the different scenarios. Falcao popping up in the 9th minute scoring, or Ryan Babel shooting a long distance goal in the 92nd to clinch it and bring the 3 points home. Anything can happen. All the scenarios are open, and I am absolutely psyched. I'm working from home tomorrow, so I'm going to put my feet up, crack open a beer at lunchtime, get my Turkish takeaway in, put my feet up, sit back, and hopefully watch some exciting football. However, as we all know, it never works out that way, and you actually end up like running up and down, screaming, shouting at the TV like a madman. So It's not going to be very relaxing at all. And shout out to Umut, who's actually going to be at the game, because he's going to be having a whale of a time as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, and he was so nice as to offer me a ticket to go, but I did not want to take a ticket away from any Galatasaray fans who wanted to attend, of course. Yakup,
if only I was still in Europe, I would have bitten your hand off for that.
Yakup, how excited are you for Trabzonspor's return to the Europa League group stages?
Very, very excited. We might play some subpar football in the Turkish league, but whenever we play in Europe, we seem to do pretty good. So I really can't wait. And unfortunately, we have a couple of really devastating injuries, but I'm just psyched because European football is always just a little bit more fun. So let's hope we do well.
Yeah, and Besiktas away at Slovan Bratislava. I'm just hoping for them to reboot their season a little bit, because it's necessary after the poor start in the league. Hopefully a win away at Bratislava and not another disillusion for Besiktas. But yeah, let's get into a little bit news before we get into the Super League outright. One of the big talking points that will be, or one of the big news items, so to speak. I'm just scrolling down because I'm looking. This is something I had planned for the transfer episode, but it's mainly just the injury blow at Trabzonspor. 3 players out. Yusuf Sarri out for 5 to 6 months, if I'm not mistaken, with a meniscus injury. Abdulkadir Ömür out for 5 to 6 months with a meniscus injury. I believe they both have a meniscus injury. And then Ekuban is out for, I believe, 6 or so weeks. So, yeah, 2 key players for Trabzonspor. One young up-and-coming player they just transferred from Olympique Marseille, who was doing a decent job in my opinion. I know, Yakup, you weren't too impressed yet, but he had already had an impact. So 3 players potentially for the first team that you'll be missing for quite some time.
Yeah, I think the most gutted about Abdülkadir and then Ekuban. I didn't like Yusuf Sarı, to be honest, and he's actually out for 6 weeks, not 6 months. Ekuban is gone for 2 months, I think, and Ivanildo just got injured, and he's probably gone for like 2 weeks. Yeah, it's just our luck, you know. We have a lot of spare players, but I don't think a lot of them might have the capabilities to fill the void. But we can only hope, you know, because just a typical Turkish fashion, just hope and pray.
Well, geçmiş olsun to Abdülkadir Ömer, Yusuf Sarı, and Ekuban, Kalep Ekuban, and hope they get well soon. But let's get into Turkish Super League football, because of course after the international break we returned on Friday with the reigning defending Turkish Super League champions. I love saying that, you know, channeling my inner Paul Heyman. Galatasaray hosted Kasimpasa at home, of course, and they beat them 1-0 with a goal from the debuting Radamel Falcao in the 38th minute. That's pretty much all that she wrote in terms of highlights, or at least statistical highlights. Let's get into it straight away. Özer, your take on the match?
Yeah, I mean, we're the reigning champions, as you say, and I thought this game would be raining goals, to be honest with you. And I saw a lot of people on Twitter before the game last Friday saying this was going to be a 3-0, 4-0. Home, we've got the home support, we've got Falcao's debut and everything, and it didn't quite amount to that. Obviously with the 1-0 result, but we did play some decent football towards the end of the first half and the beginning of the second half. Put together some neat tricks, some nice passages of play. Falcao actually had a chance to make it 2 and 3 with some pretty good chances, but let's not forget that he hasn't actually played a professional game since May, so he might be a little bit rusty here and there. But you know, as the old saying goes, form is temporary, but class is of course permanent. So we saw a lot of classy touches from him, especially in the first half. He attempted an overhead kick. He made some really flashy passing with Babel, with Lemina, and of course with Ömer when he came on as well. So as a debut, as all things go for Falcao, I think it was pretty much perfect. Got on the score sheet, played well, looked happy, and of course, given the nature of the day, it was the 28th anniversary of the death of Galatasaray legend Metin Oktay. He stood and gave his gesture to the fans and to the memory of Metin Oktay. So all in all, it was a perfect debut for Falcao, and I think all fans were very pleased with that. In terms of the gameplay, like I said, we played okay in the first and the beginning of the second half. Towards the end of the second, though, we really dropped off, and we didn't really put together any sort of organised attacks whatsoever. That is going to be a concern for us going forward, because it looked like the team just weren't really that fit as well, which is a concern, because these guys have just come out of the summer training camp. And you expected them to be a little bit more fit for that. However, we do have the Champions League game tomorrow night, so maybe the mental priorities had switched in some of the squad, and they were kind of focused on tomorrow evening. I want to say Lemina, I thought he made a very impressive debut. He was only on the pitch for about half an hour or so before coming off with injury, but he played some really neat football. But then again, Ömer, who replaced him, definitely deserves a lot of praise. Not only did he give the assist for Falcao, but he contributed a lot defensively, and he just gave 100%. And it's good to see that he really did everything to try and win that spot in the midfield. And I hold up my hands, because I was never really sure about him working in that midfield left side position, being a left back originally. But he's actually risen to the occasion and deserves full credit for that. On the other side, Levent Hoxha, who was taking over in place of the banned Terim, did not put on a great performance. I don't think his substitution of Falcao was utterly disgraceful. I never like to see that kind of substitution go on, especially in the 88th minute we're only 1-0 up. Anything can happen. We're defending a corner. If we concede, then there's nobody up the pitch who can score. And given that we have this kind of obsession and fetish for scoring late on, that would have been a huge disaster for us. So I don't think Levent Hoxha passed the test quite frankly, and we're going to struggle for the next few weeks without having Mr. Tareem on the touchline.
Don't you think that was Terim's decision, though, from the stands? Usually
stuff
like that gets given to...
I don't know. It seemed like a bit of a cowardly substitution to me. I don't think Tareem is the kind of guy who would make that.
But maybe it's more rather...
was being super conservative.
Maybe it's to conserve Falcao rather than, being conservative.
I don't know.
I mean, like you said, he hasn't played a...
It was the 80... No, that's true. And I would have subscribed to that view if it was, say, a 70th minute substitution. But it was the 88th, 89th minute change, and I don't think the rationale for such a late change is to conserve a player's energy. I think it's to just go.
No, but
full hard
not to
in
risk
defense.
an injury or something.
I'm not convinced by that. I'm not convinced. Not convinced. In any case, we really fell apart after that because Falcao actually, despite being a top class striker, he actually comes from deep to win the ball back and actually made a lot of defensive contributions as well in the second half. Less effective going forward, but quite effective in defense. So I thought that was a really bizarre change.
All in all, decent debut for Falcao. If he had more match rhythm, he probably would have gotten on the score sheet once or twice more. He had one really good opportunity. I thought the second one was not that big of a miss. The second one was more that I think he's tried to square it for Babel, and his pass was a little bit overhit. But that one, exactly. I don't think that was too bad. And then he had one shot that just went past. But that's something he may score on another day. But all in all, a decent debut for him. Got a little lucky on his goal. Took a massive deflection, but I mean, shot was going towards the goal anyway. But I think I said this on Twitter. This is the type of match I would have seen. I think Galatasaray would have won this 4-5-6-0 last season. I really thought Kasimpasa were very poor going forward, mainly. Their passing game was okay up until the final third or so. And again, if this was a different team, I think you faced... that late equalizer could have definitely been in the cards, but they just looked so absolutely impotent up front.
I agree with you, and kind of goes back to my first comment about how I was expecting it to rain goals, because like you are, this time last season we would have thrashed these guys 3 or 4-0 just when we're in the flow of these home fixtures, we're kind of unstoppable. But I think maybe part of it is because we've got a lot of new players playing together for the first time, plus we've got the whole European thing that's creeping up. So it's good that we got the 3 points on the Friday, and then we can kind of put our feet up and relax before the Champions League. But I think maybe the Champions League was in the back of everybody's minds. Maybe that's why we didn't put on the top show on Friday.
Yeah, I thought the most important thing was for Galatasaray that they got the 3 points. They did create a lot of goal scoring opportunities. I think they had, as I mentioned, a couple for Falcao, the Ryan Babel rocket that just went over the Kasimpasa bar. The Kasimpasa had a goal disallowed for offside, which is a correct call. And it was all just a little bit uninspiring at times. But like you said, you've got to play and get the 3 points when you're not playing at your best, which is what Galatasaray managed to do. You can talk about the deflected goal that Falcao scored, but it's a perfect home debut in front of an adoring crowd. So the defense still is a little bit shaky, and we'll get to see in the coming weeks how that holds up against opposition in Europe and in the Super League. So yeah, I mean, I watched the game live on beIN Sports. Spain, I think they had a crazy overhead view for the game as well. So it's like playing with a bird.
That was a real nightmare watching at the beginning. Yeah, it was really annoying.
They did eventually switch it though to the view they were accustomed to, good old telly broadcast view, and I just mean it was I think an underwhelming home performance, but the main thing is to get the 3 points and get back on track. And get
Resultante importante, as Tareem says.
Indeed, and get the confidence up within the camp before the trip to Bruges tomorrow. So, maybe this could be the result that kickstarts the season a little bit for Galatasaray, I think.
Yakup, anything to add?
Not really. I think the game was pretty much Falcao's debut game because every eye was pointed at him. I didn't expect him to get on the score sheet right away because Galatasaray has a lot of new players and they don't seem to gel very well together at the moment. But I liked the way he played, even though he hasn't played in like 4 months. He was always looking,
He
for the
played
goal.
almost every friendly until he got injured for Monaco. So
Okay.
it wasn't.
Well, he was really good. He was always in the attacking position. He always tried to go for the goal. He looked like a 24-year-old instead of how old he is. So I'm thinking that he's going to do a lot of damage, especially in the Champions League for Galatasaray. Yeah, good game. Could have ended way higher, but as I said, the team hasn't gelled that well with each other, to be honest.
Yeah, let's move over to Saturday when with the early game Basaksehir against Sivasspor, which ended in 1-1. Goals here coming from Mustafa Yatabare in the 39th minute, putting Sivasspor 1-0 up, and then the equalizer from Edin Visca in the 56th minute, pulling things level, and it remained at that for full time. Mustafa Yatabaris was another beauty. It was Sunday shot, as we call it in Belgium. Very nice goal. And Visca's goal was pretty nice too. Gonna throw to you first, Yakup. Your notes on the game.
Well, I don't really like the way Basaksehir is playing this year. I don't know if it is because of a coaching change. I don't know if it's because Emre is gone, but they don't seem to have the same confidence that they had last year. Yatabare, an old player of ours, he was awful when he was playing with us, but he seems to do pretty well on different teams. Had a wonderful goal, as you said. The goal with Wisha, I think that one should have gone in first. That was like some players either didn't get the ball or just rebounded off it, and it fell in front of him. So they should have finished it. The first chance they got, but at the end of the day, a goal is a goal. So it doesn't matter really when it goes in or how it goes in. And I think that maybe Sivasspor deserved a little bit more, but it's football, so you can't do a lot about it.
What do you think, Burak? Did Sivasspor deserve more, or was Basaksehir hard done here with the draw?
I think I agree with Yakup. I think Sivas looked a little bit more dangerous when they came forward. They obviously the Yatabara goal was great. He played a 1-2 with the, I can't remember who gave him the assist, but he headed it to him and got it back. But he also he wasted a great chance to make it 2-1 as well towards the end of the game, where he obviously gave the keeper the eye, sent him the wrong way, but just a few inches just wide of the post. The Basaksehir goal, like I said, it was a bit of a ping pong in the area, and then Junior, I don't think he actually meant that pass for Visca. He just ended up just squaring it across the ball, but just luckily it popped up to Edin Visca, and he gets on score sheet again. And like I said, I think I've said it before, I don't think Basaksehir will be anywhere near the top 4, top 5 this season. I think the departure of Emre has hurt them with regards to being able to do some build-up play in midfield. But the striker, was it the Italian chap that scored against
Enzo
Uh,
Crivelli?
Clearly, he still looks, decent, a few decent touches, but just like failed with his end product on this game. So I think Basaksehir were lucky to come with a point from this one.
What do you think, Özer? Was that pass intended from, I think it was Kaysera?
Yeah, I must have rewound that clip about 4 or 5 times to try and figure it out myself. I'm still not sure. I would say that he was actually going for a shot, and he just ended up being a perfect assist because he runs up to the ball with such ferocity and he hits it so hard. Doesn't really look to the left side of the pitch where Edin Visca is free. So I think he's going for a shot, but he ended up delivering a brilliant assist, and it was a funny goal. Yatabara's goal was brilliant. The link-up play. It was Emre Kılınç who gave the assist, by the way. That was a great little 1-2 that they had together, and the miss at the end was just agonising. Basically an open goal. He could have made it 2-1, and I think Sivas deserved to have won that game.
Yeah, my only note to add to that is I think Daniel Aleksic had a decent debut. He missed some chances for sure, but he was very involved, and I think they made a good move there with replacing Mosoro with Aleksic.
Yeah, you're right. He was involved with all of their positive attacks. He was behind them.
Yeah, he'll definitely be a good get for them, I think. but I agree with you guys. I think they're not gonna be a massive player this season. But yeah, still maybe top 5, top 6, we'll see. Moving on to the next match, Gazisehir Besiktas. This one ended 3-2. And yeah, this game was mainly revolving around something that happened in the 6th minute. Quick throw in by Gazisehir. Vida misses his control. And I think it was, let me see, I think it was Koyade who then got the ball, went on one-on-one with the goalkeeper, and Vida taps him on the ankles or something, or on the back of the boot, and brings him down in the box. Red card, penalty, and yeah, that's that game. You know, it shaped the entire game. Patrick Tuomasi converted. I struggled with that name last time too. Tuomasi converted from the penalty spot 1-0 after 8 minutes. And it took quite a while until the 59th minute. Guray Vural doubled the scoreline for Gazisehir. And then 2 red cards in the 75th minute after a VAR check. Koyade getting sent off and Mohamed El Neni getting sent off on his debut. I believe he had like 1 red card in his career in more than 200 games, and now on his debut for Besiktas he gets sent off. Basically Koyade elbowed him in the face during a duel, and El Neni just kicked him like out of reaction. So correct decision to send both players off, I feel. Then Raman Shipsa made it 3-0 in the 79th minute. She, flashes back to Sivasspor on match day 1. But then Umut Nair scored for Besiktas. He had just come on as a substitute for Guven Yalcin in the 83rd minute. And just not even a minute later, Atiba Hutchinson, again on a corner this time, scores 3-2 and made the last 15 minutes, because there were 9 minutes of added time, very interesting. Besiktas coming close, very close once through Josh Kevin Nkudu to make it 3-3, but at the end of the day, Gazisehir get a deserved 3 points, 3-2, and I said it before the season started, I think Gazisehir are going to be decent, and of course they had that horrible opening match day loss against Fenerbahçe, where they gave away 3 penalties in 20 minutes or something, and they were never going to do well. But after that, they rebounded well, they've done well. I was not too surprised that they gave Besiktas a run for their money, but yeah, that red card decided the match almost, I think. It was never really we couldn't really see what Besiktas are capable of after that. And it's unfortunate for Besiktas. They have a very bad start to the season, just 4 points out of 4 matches, kind of reminiscent of Fenerbahçe last season. And of course they will be missing El Neni for at least 2 games, probably 3 or so, because I don't think the TFF or the PFDK will just let him off with 2 games. That will definitely be 3.
Rightly so. That was a really bad challenge from El Neni. It was such a vicious kick, and it was with no intention to play the ball or anything like that. He only had the intention to hurt the player. So I would expect him to get 3 or 4 matches for that.
That wasn't even a challenge. I mean, it was just a reaction.
Exactly, yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. That's the thing. It was completely off the ball, and it was just completely with the intention to hurt the player. I'm very worried about El Neni, to be honest, because I've seen him a lot playing for Arsenal, and he was linked with Galatasaray at the start of the summer window, and I was petrified because I really don't rate him at all. Not necessarily for the disciplinary stuff, just because I think he's an extremely overrated player. And then suddenly, almost out of nowhere, he ended up signing for Besiktas. So I don't know. I don't have huge hopes for El Neni. And his behaviour in that moment just made me think that he's not very serious about this loan move at all. So I don't know what your first impressions are. I guess you didn't have much to see before that, but
I think it's a very human reaction. It's like when someone takes a swing at you, you're going to react, right?
I don't know. The swing was wasn't as bad as his response at all. It was completely disproportionate.
I don't agree with that. He just makes an elbow to his face. I do 100% red card. 100% agree with you that this is like a 3 or 4 match ban. But I think it's a human reaction. If somebody tries to hurt you, you get angry, you get pissed off, and it's a split-second decision. And some people say, you're a professional, you should be above that. But when you're a professional athlete, you don't get trained to not have human responses to getting assaulted. So I don't know. If somebody tries to elbow me or elbows me in the face, I'd probably give him a punch. The difference is here, instead of kicking him, if you push him, you probably don't get sent off. The kick is just absolutely stupendous. But yeah, I don't know. For me, it's a human reaction. I'm not excusing it. I'm just saying I would probably have done a similar thing if I was in his shoes. So I don't think it. Go ahead, yeah.
I mean, with Quaresma gone, you need to have another player to fill the dumb red card quota, you know. So
yeah, but that's different. Quaresma, this is not a player losing the ball and then being petulant like a child and kicking someone from behind because his trick didn't work. It's not the same thing here. I think
he skipped a couple steps, but it's still the same.
And generally, I thought the game was a kind of a mirror image of that Bayern Munich match from a few years ago. Vida gets sent off early on, and then Besiktas are kind of on the back foot for the rest of the match and looking like it's going to run away from them. So I agree that it wasn't kind of a test for Besiktas' abilities at all, but the red card kind of set the tone.
But in that Bayern match, at least, I don't think you could blame Vida there, because that was a poor pass back from Atiba, intercepted, and he actually tries to play the ball, and and Lewandowski just taps it just before he manages to tackle it, and then takes Lewandowski down. So that's a different thing for me. That was a normal. Maybe he should have let him go, but he still had a chance to play the ball. Here, this was just his lights going out, like, oh, fuck, I fucked up, and then he took him down. This is absolutely unnecessary because, first and foremost, I don't think Coyote is going to score there because he's not a good finisher, and Karius was coming out really quickly. He was in a decent position, and even if he does score, that's not the end of the world, but you're putting your team down to 10 man after just 6 minutes, giving away a penalty. You're basically giving away the match. Vida made an Instagram post after the game apologizing for his mistake and all that. So I don't blame Vida or anything like that. I think, stuff like this happens. It's football. Defenders are going to get those cards from time to time, unfortunately, for their team. So, but it's of course it was unfortunate for Besiktas, but at the end of the day, if you look at the chances Gazisehir had afterwards, I think they hit the post 2 or 3 times, and then Besiktas come close to a draw in the end. But at the end of the day, if you look at the full 90 minutes, and of course that red card shapes the game, but it's a correct decision, so you can't really say anything about it. And if you look afterwards, the amount of chances Gazisehir had, the amount of chances Besiktas had, I do have to say Besiktas continue to play. I think, for example, Gazisehir's second goal was an example of Besiktas trying to push for the equalizer, so it's not like Besiktas gave up or anything. Even after the 3-0, they didn't give up, so that was a little bit of a positive there. So Besiktas, despite that, didn't play poorly with 10 men, but for me, this was one of those games. I think I knew what Burak felt like last season, where it's just like after a couple of minutes, you're just like, ugh, it's 8 minutes, and I just wish this match was over already. Burak, is that the sentiment you had a lot last season?
Yeah, pretty much. It's a coach's worst nightmare, isn't it? You work all week for the game, you get your game plan down, you get your tactics, you work on them on the training field, and within the first 6 minutes, bam, red card. You have to reshuffle, you have to reorganize your players, and it was a tasty game, wasn't it? There was like 4 yellow cards before the El Nene and Coyote. The red cards happened, and there was again 4 yellow cards afterwards as well. So
yeah, but nothing over the line. I felt I was surprised by the whole Coyote El Nene thing. It didn't feel like a tense match. Okay, there were some yellow cards, but I don't really know where that came out of. I don't know why Coyote decided to suddenly take a swing with his elbow, basically. It just didn't feel like that type of a match. And yeah,
it was just aggression by both teams. I think El Nene's been hanging out with Granit Xhaka a little bit too much in London, and he's got a bit of that thuggery about him. So yeah, we'll have to see. Indeed, he'll do his ban and come back, and we'll have to see how he fits into the team. But like Özer, I'd never really rated him at Arsenal, and so I don't know how he's going to do for Besiktas when he comes back from his ban.
Yeah, it's a question, of course, now. How much is it going to impact him mentally? I think in terms of profile, he's the right type of player, so we'll have to wait and see. I think maybe at Arsenal they expected a little bit too much from him, But I think if you're playing him in that role as a controlling midfielder who covered a lot of ground, good passing game, but don't expect too much from him, I think he's okay with that. But we'll have to wait and see. He's not a long-term move, probably, because there's no option to buy to my knowledge. Well, there's an option to buy for, I believe, 18 million or something, so that's never going to happen. But I mean, the other main takeaway for me for Besiktas, once again, I think I said it last week and probably the week before, well, last game and the game before, but Güven Yalçın is he's just not good enough for Besiktas at this level. He's a good, talented player. He's only 20 years old. He gets on the score sheet from time to time, so he's definitely got something, but he needs to go out on loan. He needs to play for a smaller club, and preferably in a two-striker system or something, but he is just such like a black hole that sucks everything in it, and this is what he feels like. He's not able to hold up. His hold-up play is horrendous. He can't combine with other players. He's only effective when he's in the box, and then even when he's in the box, like when I don't know how many times Nkudu ran down that left wing and tried to put in a cross in the box, but he's never somewhere useful. So I don't know. As soon as Umut Nair came in, that was better. Besiktas really, I hope against Slovan Bratislava, they'll do away with Güven and start either Umut or Diaby up top, and they just have to pray for Burak Yilmaz to get back and then to stay fit, because otherwise it's going to be a very long season for them. Anything to add, Yakup?
No, not that much. There's one thing that I didn't get: the red card that El Neni got. Why did the Gazisehir player get a red?
Because he elbowed him before.
Oh, okay. I didn't see that part.
Yeah, that's why he kicked him.
I want to add though. I'm happy to see that Hutchinson with his old bones is still scoring goals. So that's nice to see. And you were talking about Güven Yalçın, so I agree with you. I think that Besiktas is really missing Burak. Burak is always a player that he pretty much all game he only needs 2 chances to be really, really dangerous, and that is what Besiktas missed this game. I think it's a little bit bad for Güven because he's a striker, and when you're a young, promising player, as a striker you don't really have the patience that a player that plays on a different position has. So it's kind of bad for him, but it just comes with the territory. So I hope he will get better.
He's drowning right now. He's just not. I mean, I'm not saying he won't be, because look, Burak, when he first came, he had a really good start at the club and really promising start when he was 21 years old. But then he kind of had that period where he was drowning too. So it's normal for younger players. But I don't think Abdullah Avci is doing him any service by keep on insisting on playing him, because he's weighing down the team. And he's costing the team points indirectly by simply not contributing enough. It's not just Burak's ability to score, it's also just his presence up top, and that's the main issue, that Güven doesn't have any presence. He doesn't weigh on the opposition's defense, and he doesn't give the wingers an option in the box. So, for example, Besiktas fans are already starting to judge Tyler Boyd and Kudu. These guys aren't good enough and blah, blah, blah. I don't think you can make that assessment either way, whether they are or aren't, until they're actually playing with a proper striker up top. And I was very disappointed with Diaby starting on the right if he was fit to play, because apparently he was ill midweek. But if he was fit, he should have just started up top. I think he had a decent game. He had 2 or so of the most dangerous actions for Besiktas until the goals. So he did some good stuff on the wing, which isn't his main position. He is really a striker. So I hope Abdullah Avci isn't going to make the same mistake as Keizer did at Portugal, at Sporting, and insist on playing him on the wing, because you can play Diaby on the wing, but his main position is as a second striker really, but he can also play as a 9. So I hope that he either starts against Bratislava or Umut. Let's move over to the next one. That's Antalyaspor, Kayserispor, a match with a lot of goals, just like the Gazisehir Besiktas match. We have 4 goals in this match, 2 for both teams. Antalyaspor Kayserispor ending in 2-2. Goals here coming from Gustavo Blanco in the 2nd minute, putting Antalya 1-0 ahead. Then Emmanuel Adebayor scores from the penalty spot to make it 1-1 in the 44th minute. And then in the 50th minute, Serdar Özkan does the same from the penalty spot, putting Antalyaspor ahead once again. And then in the 74th minute, Benoit Poulain scores the equalizer for Kayserispor, making it 2-2. Benoit Poulain came from Club Brugge, by the way, Özer, in case you're interested. Let's talk about the main thing here, the penalties. Both were awarded by VAR. Were they correct? I'm going to go to the man of the law first, Burak.
Indeed, here we go. The penalty that Nazım Sangare gave away, I think, was stonewall penalty. We've seen this before on a few occasions. I think the difference between this one and other ones we've seen is the ball was shot heading towards goal, comes off Nazım's knee, and then it hits his arm, which is extended high. It's used to make his body bigger, as it says in the law, because I'm a man of the law. And by all means, I believe that was the correct decision, the penalty. Although I must admit, when I saw Adebayor step up to take it, he did that little Simone Zaza shuffle on the spot, like we saw in Euro 2016. So I thought he was going to miss it. And then we were going to get loads of memes of Adebayor as a duck pacing on the spot. And then Nazım goes down the other end and actually wins a penalty. And I think there's no argument with that. I mean, he gets his shot off, but it's the follow through from the Kayserispor player completely takes Nazım out, puts him on his ass, and that's again, that's a stonewall penalty. It doesn't matter that Nazım has actually got his shot off and it's been saved or deflected. I can't remember, but the follow through is worthy of the penalty. So those are my takes on the two penalties, and I think a fair result on the basis of the game. But both teams had some good attacking play, some good chances on goal. The equaliser for Kayseri, great header. That's what you're taught to do in school. Head it down. This time there was no Gordon Banks-esque save from the Antalyaspor goalkeeper. And who is it? The Antalyaspor missed a great chance at the end to try and make it 3-2. I think if the player had... if he was a size 10 boot, size 10 boot instead of a size 9, that's going in. So, but fair result on the basis of the game, I think.
That was one of the worst misses ever. You got to see that Turkaholics. If you haven't gone to the Bain Sports website and watch, it's cringeworthy. It makes you cry inside.
Indeed, it's so much worse than the miss by the Yatabare against Basaksehir.
Was it worse than Nkudu's miss against Rizespor a couple of weeks ago? Open goal.
It might be actually, yeah.
Moving on to Sunday, Ankaragücü hosted Yeni Malatyaspor, and I think I professed, or at least predicted, that Yeni Malatyaspor would have a tough season due to their European adventure, but so far definitely not the case, as they trash Ankaragücü in Ankara 4-0. Goals here coming from Adis Yahovic in the 26th minute. That was an interesting goal. Thierry Bifuma in the 33rd to make it 2. Then Guilherme with a stunning shot in the 43rd minute to make it 3. Then Stelios Kitsu gets sent off in the 76th minute after he had already gotten a yellow card in the 45th minute, and he received his second here. And then Michel Donald made it 4-0 in the 82nd minute, making it a runaway victory for Yeni Malatyaspor. I don't really think there's much to say in terms of, anything interesting apart from the goals. Adis Yahovic's first goal, that was a little bit of a blunder at the back for Ankaragücü. I think it was Thiago Pinto and Pazdan colliding with each other, basically spilling the ball, and I'm not sure who it ended up with, but then he squared it, I believe, to Yahovic, and he made it 1-0, and I think that basically illustrated the type of evening it was going to be for Ankara. Is there going to throw to you first?
Yeah, I mean, Malatyaspor play some really fancy football, and it makes me really sad to think that they were so close to qualifying to the next round in Europe. Because, as you say, it would have been great to have them on board because they play much better football than any of the guys who are in Europe right now.
Yeah, and let's not forget, they were just a penalty away. If there was VAR in the Europa League qualifiers, they probably would have been in the group stages, and that would have been 4 more interviews for me to do. So thank you, Malatyaspor, for not qualifying.
Yeah, okay.
No, just kidding. Of course, the coefficients would have been nice. But guys, anything to add? Beautiful goal by Guilherme, but yeah, not much of a contest this match. Runaway win for me and Malatyaspor.
Yeah, I mean, you should definitely check out the goal by Guilherme. Definitely a pole driver with his left foot goes in, and we Fenerbahçe play Ankaragücü next week. So for me, I'm happy to see them get trounced 4-0. So that gives us some hope going into next week's game.
Demoralized.
Indeed, Schadenfreude at its finest, shall we say? But yeah, I think Ankaragücü struggling at home. Sergen and Erol did the old switcheroo. You go to Marti, I'll go to Alanya. It's worked out a little bit better for Erol right now, probably due to Sergen's hard work last season. Right now, after 4 games, it's worked out better.
But I mean, Malatya have had a good start too, so I think it's worked out for both of them.
Yeah, and I think going down to 10 men for Ankara just was the final nail in the coffin. If the final nail wasn't there already.
Yeah, and one of their most important players, and being without Kitsiu next week against Fenerbahçe in Kadıköy doesn't mute yourself, man.
Oh, sorry, I thought I was on mute. I forgot to. Sorry, I'm enjoying a shisha.
Giving me a lot of editing work. I want to go to bed.
Keep it in.
Timestamp it. 42 minutes.
Whatever.
Keep it in.
Yeah, I'm keeping it in. Fuck it. Anyway, without Kitsiu next week in Kadıköy, that's going to be painful for them. And it's interesting how Burak is looking towards it. It's like, oh yeah, that's good. It's the meat is being tenderized already, and I'm just looking at it like, oh my god, we still have to play Malatyaspor, and we still have to play Alanyaspor, and we still have to play this and that, and all these teams are looking so much better than we are right now. And I'm dreading playing these teams, and you're like, oh yeah, let's bring it on, Ankaragücü.
The meat is ready for the barbecue.
Yakup, anything to add on this one?
No, not at all.
Thank you very much for keeping it short. On to the next one. Çaykur Rizespor, Göztepe. Another one I don't think we'll be talking about too much, but there's one really big point of interest in this one, and that's the penalty that Göztepe got, and then it got overturned for an offside. It was a penalty and a red card, actually, for a handball on the goal line, saving a goal, basically. So the big question here is that offside decision. It's clearly an offside, but was the player involved in the play? Was he obstructing the goalkeeper or anything like that? I don't know. Man of the law, please shed your light.
That was absolutely crazy. Yeah, please do, because I've never seen a red card rescinded before.
Neither have I. I thought that was absolutely potty. But was he interfering with play? I think he was interfering with play, just by being in and amongst. It wasn't as if he was standing on the edge of the area and he was offside. He was in amongst the karambol, as we say.
But he wasn't the guy taking the shot, right?
He wasn't the guy taking the shot. He was about 3 or 4 yards to the right of the goalkeeper. But was he in the goalkeeper's line of sight? Was the goalkeeper looking at him as well, and not looking at the guy in the middle? So,
but was he offside at the time of when the ball was being played into the box, or was he offside at the time of the shot? Or because it wasn't really clear to me, honestly. I've watched it a few times. I'm looking at it again, and it's just really tough to see. Yeah.
I think he was offside the time the ball was played, and if it was, and the referee in his estimation has deemed that to be interfering, then it's the correct call. no penalty, no red card. So you go from absolute euphoria to absolute dejection for poor Göztepe, who are still suffering from the Cameron Jerome effect. So, and that was
they haven't they haven't scored in 10 of their last 15 games. How terrible is that?
The Eren Dirdiok effect maybe for them this season, and the Yasin Istik effect.
So many effects going on at Göztepe, so I don't know, you have to choose one each week, but that was the most talk-worthy point of an otherwise really dull game.
Yeah, I think even the commentator was explaining it with such dreary voice, he just wanted it to be over. Watching the highlights was bad enough.
Hit the bar on a free kick, though, in the second half or something, but yeah, it was didn't look like a super interesting match, and Göztepe continued to struggle. Yakup, do you have an outspoken opinion on the penalty being rescinded and the red card?
No, but I didn't really get it because with what you said, I thought that he wasn't really involved in the play, so maybe it shouldn't have been rescinded. But I like, we talked with you before we started about that. I don't really like VAR a lot because it stops the play a lot. But with moments like this, you can just see the worth it has. And as both of my co-commentators said, I never seen a red card being rescinded. So
pretty sure I saw it last season, but I don't remember what league it was in. So, but yeah, I've seen a red card rescinded through VAR before, but don't remember when.
Yeah, but otherwise a really dull game. The only thing that I remember is that a player of Göztepe was 1-on-1 with the keeper, and a defender, I think, of Çaykur tried his best and he stopped him, and I don't even remember his name, but it was a really good chance that he stopped. So pretty much the only thing I really remember of the game.
Rize remain unbeaten, if I'm not mistaken, and that's the main takeaway from this match. Let's move over to Denizlispor Konyaspor, another unbeaten side. Denizlispor suffering their first defeat at home to Konyaspor 1-0, and the guy scoring here was Faruk Mia. Once again, that young stud scored a very stunning goal. And the main point I wanted to talk about here was Isaac Saki's yellow card in the 19th minute. That looked like a high boot on the shin. Yeah, for me that's a red card. You know, we had this argument last week, 2 weeks ago, whatever, where we were comparing was it not Lemina, but Seri, and why he got a red card, and then Nkudu didn't, and then we were talking about the height of the boot. So go back and watch that. Listen to that in episode 3, season 2, episode 3. We delved into that. But this looked like a very high boot for me from Isaac Saki. I don't know if you guys saw it. So if you did and you have an opinion, please chime in.
Are you sure? Because it doesn't really look like that, to be honest. It looks like he's going for the ball.
He's going for the ball for sure, but his foot is way too high.
Let's agree to disagree then.
Isn't it like way above his ankle? It's like shin height?
No. I think you should really watch the position.
Yeah, it's on the edge of his boot. His foot, he comes in with a high boot, but by the time he makes a contact, it was actually on the edge of the Konyaspor player's boot. So it wasn't anywhere near his ankle or his shin. So for me, that's a correct decision. He's his eyes firmly on the ball as he's going in for the challenge. The Konyaspor player is just a little bit too quick. He gets his foot out, toe pokes the ball away, burun vuruyor, as Recep İvedik would say, and he just catches him on the edge of the boot. So for me, that's a yellow card. I think a red would have been very harsh for that.
Yeah, I agree with Burak.
Unfortunately, my BN Sports app is unresponsive, and I'm not able to watch it back right now. I don't know why it's not allowing me to tap anything. So yeah, whatever. And the goal by Mia. I don't know, how old is this guy? Because I saw on one website he's 19, and I saw somewhere else he's 21. So I don't know how old he is, but he's still young. And he scored the winner for Konyaspor, I think like on match day 2 or something. And now he scores. This was a very nice goal. Guys, this kid could be a very exciting young prospect in our league, no?
I just checked, and he's 21. I really like this goal. It reminded me of a young Brian Babel with his hip shot. So good goal, really good goal.
Yeah, great technique to swivel on a sixpence as we would say in England, and he just like puts it into the far corner. A great technique. Let's see him keep it up. So I'm sure Aykut Hoca is quite happy to have someone like him in the team. Let's see him do it on a regular basis. But by all means, great start, explosive start to the season by young Faruk.
Definitely. And is there anything to add, or shall we move over to Trabzon's game?
No, I'm happy to move into Trabzon.
Okay, and then the main event of Sunday evening was Trabzonspor against Gençlerbirligi, the bottom team of the table. We're still on 0 points, but they got off the mark now, and they got 1 point out of this match after a 2-2 draw at the Akyazi Stadium, following Filip Novak opening the scoring in the 17th minute, Bogdan Stanko equalizing in the 44th, then Alexander Surlov finally, to put it in words of Yakup, converts a spot kick for Trabzonspor in the 57th minute. But then in the 84th minute, Stefan Sessegnon puts the equalizer on the scoreboard. The most controversial goal probably from this match day, in the sense that, well, one off, maybe the next match may have a couple more. But an apparent fall in the build-up to the goal. Fall, no fall, that's the big discussion. But Yakup, please first give your thoughts on the match and then on the equalizer for Gençlerbirligi. Was there a fall in the build-up, yes or no?
So starting the game, I really like the squad. Karaman had a good choice with putting Sturridge on the bench and not starting him immediately. Unfortunately, our midfield wasn't that good. Sosa didn't have a lot of good passes in the second half. He misplaced a lot. Abdulkadir Parmak was absolutely horrible. Obi Mikel did play good, so that's at least something. Novak back with his trademark goals. I really liked the tribute after the first goal with the jersey, with the players that were injured. But I have a feeling that if they keep doing this, that we won't have a jersey big enough to fit every name that is injured. So I hope that everyone returns and the players, stay injury free. The first goal was pretty much a mistake of Sosa that led to it. I like him, but sometimes he tries a fancy pass where a normal pass is just good enough. As you said, I wrote with like really big letters on my notes that we finally scored a penalty, so that happened, and I'm really excited about that. The second half, you could see that Vakayeme didn't really have stamina left, because he has been running around for 90 minutes pretty much since he came to the team, so I think he deserves some rest. There was a position that when with Mikel where he stepped on somebody's shin, so he might have gotten a red. He probably deserved the red, but I don't think he even got a yellow. It ankle, okay.
I think it was ankle, yeah.
But the big thing about this match, Sturridge made his debut. Didn't have really any big touches of the ball, but the couple touches that he had, he really showed that he is really, ready to start. He had one awesome pass to Sturlot that Sturlot unfortunately didn't convert, and the big talking point is obviously the second goal of Gençlerbirligi. In my opinion, it was a foul. If you look at the view, it seems that the defender or the player of Gençlerbirligi hits Sturridge on his right leg. You and I looked at the footage before we started, and you thought it was he went for the ball and it wasn't a foul. In my opinion, it was a foul. Even if you go back and rewatch it with VAR, I think it's a bit weird that he didn't go to the screen to watch it himself, especially if it's a goal that is 84th minute or something, and it's an equalizer. But other than that, I'm not happy. I'm not happy with the team. I'm not happy with Karaman still waiting way too long to take players out. His subs are really awful. Parmak shouldn't have played as long as he had. He should have been substituted at the end of the first half. But otherwise, I'm hopeful for the game against Getafe, and let's hope that the team just keeps injury free.
Yeah, the big talking point, like I said, that fall or no fall in the build-up for the equalizer. Burak, man of the law, what was your take on it?
I thought it was a foul on Sturridge. Who is the player? The Gençlerbirligi player. It's quite obvious he comes in from behind, hits his leg. Sturridge goes down. It should have been a foul, and I think Trabzon were very unlucky not to get that called. The Mikel position, that could have been a red. It was, looked quite a nasty stamp. But also, I think it's Baiano from Gençlerbirligi also lashed out. Not as bad as the El Nene position.
Right, yeah, that's a good point.
It's more like a shin kick, the type you'd see from Justin Gagey in the UFC against Donald Cerrone.
Mm-hmm.
But
but the ball was out of play, that was outside of the pitch, that's a red card.
Yeah, so again, you could have had a couple more red cards in this game. I don't think that even went to VAR. I don't know if the Baiano even got booked for that.
Didn't even get a card.
Nothing else.
I don't think the Mikel one. I don't think Mikel got a yellow either, and he got sent off a few weeks ago for the same kind of thing. So he needs to be very careful.
Did he get sent off?
It's going to create a habit. Did he? Or maybe he didn't get sent off. But I remember we discussed it.
I don't think Mikel got sent off. I'm pretty sure he didn't.
Maybe he didn't, and he did something similarly reckless. And
aren't you thinking of Nkudu? Because it was very similar here, I think.
No, I think Mikel did something pretty reckless in week 2, maybe it was, and we talked about it on the show as well.
The only things he has done until now is like score on goals or lead to own goals. I think
maybe I'm thinking.
I think you're thinking about
Nkudu. Maybe at least I'm thinking about Mikel doing some sort of like detrimental action towards Trabzonspor.
Was it a fall in the build-up? Your take on that?
Oh, the Sturridge position.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was. I put down that I thought that was a foul on Sturridge. Yeah, for sure.
I think I'm the only one that who thinks it wasn't. I think he got the ball. I looked at it multiple times, and it just feels like, he's coming in from behind. It just looks like he taps the ball away from Sturridge, and as soon as Sturridge realizes he lost possession, that's the feeling I got, that he just went down easy. I'm not saying there was no contact, but yeah, the right leg.
Yeah, so look at Sturridge. Sturridge's right leg. He gets a kick.
Okay, but the ball is on his left leg, right? So
but he's stopping the ball with his left, and then he gets hit on his right leg. So that's why he goes down.
I would say I'd take a look at it right now, but as I said before, my stupid app isn't working, so I'll take your word for it. So if that's the case, then definitely something that should have gone to VAR. And then it's just another one of those things where VAR is a good thing, but it should not be used in a selective manner. These things need to be consistently corrected. Then you can't have it corrected one week and not corrected the other week. We've seen plenty of nice goals disallowed because of a handball in the build-up or a fall in the build-up somewhere. I don't think it was in the Super League last season, but I remember a goal last season where one team scores, but it's disallowed because there's a fall in the build-up, and from the resulting free kick, the other team scores. I don't remember what match that was, but that was last season. So VAR sometimes definitely, I think they still have to tweak it a little bit. But let's move over to Monday. I think we all kind of expected Monday, Alanyaspor, Fenerbahçe. Alanyaspor have had a great start to the season. They have a very good team in terms of individual quality, but I still think that we kind of all expected, you know what, Fenerbahçe, they're in a good flow. They drew last week against Trabzonspor, but they're going to get back right into it, and they're going to get a win here. And it looked like it was going to happen, because after 39 minutes, Tolga Ziyech put Fenerbahçe 1-0 up on the road. But then, just a couple of minutes later, in the second minute of added time of the first half, Papi Cissé makes it 1-1. Then, as soon as we come out of the dressing room, basically, in the 46th minute, once again, Papi Cissé making it 2-1. And then in the 62nd minute, Junior Fernandez putting the cherry on top, making it 3-1. And I think, honestly, it could have been more. There's at least one stonewall penalty early on in the match, I think, where Luis Gustavo, I think it was Cissé, he just steps on him, pretty clear. And there's a couple of maybe situations. One where I think Cisse is going up for a header and he's getting a push in the back a little bit. That could have possibly been one. And then one I'm really not clear on what happened. But people saying that was a penalty. But to me, I don't really see the big deal there. But Burak, let's get your take on the match first, please.
Well, if after the international break I said I felt like a dog with two dicks, but after this match I felt like a dog that had just come back from the vets, having had its bollocks chopped off, and being left in a hot car on the streets of Alanya, sweating and just disappointed and just sad. I think that the first half was okay. You could see we were missing Emre. I don't know what we're going to do when he comes back if we play Gustavo, Emre and Kruse with three left-footed players in that midfield area. But a good goal that we had. That was a lovely assist by Mad Max. That's his fourth assist this season. So he's having an impact. He might not be putting in stellar performances every single game for 90 minutes, but you can see the impact he's having on the team just by the number of assists he's got. And then you're about to go into the half-time, 1-0 up, and then you just have a complete breakdown in communication between Altay and the defender. I don't know what happened there. Earlier on in the first half, Altay came out and kind of flapped at something, but made up for it by chasing out and chasing the ball down and jumping on it. So that was good bravery. But this was just, two individuals not having any communication between each other, and on the basis of play, it deserved the equaliser for Alanya. And then as soon as you come out of the second half, Gelson, what are you thinking? There's been lots said about Cisse being in the box when the ball was played, which we can maybe come to a little bit later. But let's just discuss the fact that Gelson, just another individual error. I don't know what happened, whether he just switched off because it was the start of the second half. Horrendous individual error and lovely ball put away by Cisse. And the third Alanya goal, individual error again by Ozan. I don't understand. He's played 2 games for the national team in midfield, albeit played well, scored one, and played well in the other game where I think he stayed on for the majority of the match. And then you shunt him straight back to right back when you've got someone like Murat Salam who can play that position, and you could maybe put Ozan into the midfield position alongside Gustavo or alongside Tolga. I would have gone with Gustavo and Ozan with Mad Max just in front of them. But 3 individual errors, and Alanya could have had a fourth. They hit the bar towards the end of the first half. The penalty position that we're talking about with Gustavo, Gustavo plants his foot on the ground, and the Alanyaspor player comes in and falls over it. So to me, that can be given as a penalty, and that cannot be given as a penalty. It's shades of grey, and I think it depends on the referee on the day. That one didn't go to VAR, so you can see what the referee thought about that one.
Then the VAR probably thought the same thing that you did, that it's the interpretation of the ref. And
they didn't
know. So.
And then the supposed push on Cisse, it was, it's just very, very, very, very mild in the back. That would have been a very, very harsh penalty. I think that's just, you see it in all the leagues around the world, all the weekends, a defender just getting a soft arm to the back. And then at the end, towards the end of the second half, Fenerbahçe could have had a penalty when Alpara was brought down. You can watch it in slow motion. It seems as if the player takes the ball and the man.
Is it the one where he's running out of the box? Kind of reminded me of Nani a couple of years ago. Is it that one?
I don't know. It's when Alpara drives into the box towards the byline, and the Alanyaspor player comes in, and you could say he kind of gets the ball and gets the man as well. So I wouldn't say that's a Stonewall penalty, but it could have been given on another day. Mad Max had a good chance with a header. It just seemed that he kind of pulled out of it a little bit. So I would have liked to have seen a little bit more bravery because
he looked a little afraid, right? When he was heading, I was like, "Oh, that ball's gonna hit my face."
You just saw this big Alanya defender running towards him. And I thought, I don't want to get clattered here, but I mean, come on, Mad Max, you're Mad Max, show some testicular fortitude, and get in there. And the heat and the humidity, must have played a part. You could see the players were absolutely drenched in sweat by like the 15th, 20th minute. But on the basis, we didn't play horrendously bad. It was shaping up to be a decent away performance going into the end of the first half. But even the goal then, we talk about the individual error that Altay and the defender had. The back pass from Zanka that put Altay in real trouble. He had to just boot the ball out for a throw-in. And again, there was talk about the throw-in being taken from the wrong place and the ref asking him to take it from the correct place. That happens every week. Someone takes a throw-in from the wrong place and the referee pulls it back and says, hey, no, play it from there. I don't recall ever seeing...
What happened there? Did he refuse to move back, or what was the controversy there?
I failed to see it. I think what happened is the Alanyaspor player took the throw in and the ref called it back. That's what I think happened, because I've tried to expunge this game from my memory. But there's been a hoo-ha made about that, and the fact that Sisu is in the penalty box as Altay played the ball to Jarlson. But you've got to.
But he's not the one winning the ball, right?
No, that's Tassos the Greek, and he was outside the box when the ball was played by Altay to Jarlson. So everyone seems to have a different version of the rules. I've checked it on EFAB because, as you know, I am a man of the law, and it clearly says there. Sorry, we're going into this now. I thought we'd come to it and end the game, but it says if an opposing player doesn't have time to leave the box, then play continues as normal. And what happened is Altay got the ball. He wanted to put it into play quickly, and Cisse was just striding out of the box. Normal. He wasn't interfering with play. He wasn't a menace or a threat at all. It was just Jarlson completely switching off, suddenly realizing, oh shit, Tassos is running towards me. He just goes to smash it, and it just rebounds. It comes off Tassos' sin and lands exactly into the path of Cisse, who suddenly thinks, oh, hang on, I'm on for a goal here. And so another day, that could have just come off Tassos' shin and gone out for a corner, or just landed behind Cisse. It was just on that particular day, at that particular time, with that particular deflection, it landed right into his path. So stunted. We've had 3 decent games playing good football. Vedar Boric was a little bit isolated, unfortunately. I think it just happens. I was expecting a little bit more from Dindjer after his goal for Turkey's first international goal. I thought he'd come in, bring with confidence. He had a bit of a quiet game. We did have no Farida magic this time. He came on again, and
did he? I was watching the game. I was like, well, you should put Ferry on. And he was on, I guess.
That goes to show, doesn't it? And even when Mevlud came on, as a last ditch, come on, try and get us a goal. Mevlud, that didn't work.
If it's 2-1, it's different, but at 3-1, you're like,
yeah.
Not, I mean, especially at the height and the heat and all that. And
I want to say credit to Errol, but I don't think Alanya were the better team on the day. They just, made the best of our 3, horrendous errors. So, let's get back, regroup, just have a good week of training, concentrate again, and we go again next week against Ankara at home. But Erol Bulut, potential future Fenerbahçe manager. We all know why I love him so as well.
Yes, don't rub it in. Yakup, okay?
And he still has that lovely curly hair, not as long as it used to be when he tied it up in a ponytail, but he's
it's like a
good
porn actor if he do that.
Exactly, a good example of a young manager. He applied his trade abroad for a bit. He grew up in a German game, so he's got maybe a different unleash of football as opposed to someone who was born and bred in Turkey. So, like I say, not a horrendously disappointing performance, but just disappointing individual errors. I thought maybe we could have done with Zeitz coming on instead of Alpad, but I understand Arsenal are thinking, let's give Alpad a go. Maybe he's a little bit more a trickier player than Zeitz. He goes on more dribbles and takes more people on, whereas Zeitz kind of just sits there a little bit deep and tries to play a few key passes here and there. So congratulations to Alanya, congratulations to Erol Bulut, and keep your heads up, hi lads. And also a defence. We're still playing with only one real recognised defender in their correct position as well. So I think that's got to weigh on the board's mind as well, thinking why didn't they strengthen a little bit sooner? But in the financial situation we're in, they said, no, let's go for Gustavo, who I was impressed with. He does seem a bit of a bitey player. He's got a bit of that aggression about him. I think we'll probably see a red card.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think he will probably...
yeah, and when Rami comes in as well, I think we'll see him get into a few scrapes. So it'll make things interesting on these discussions we have.
Yeah, for sure. So the big question mark here, because all the hoo-ha after the matches, Fenerbahçe want this game to be replayed, is what the media are pushing out. I don't know if that's actually the case, because same things are being said about Besiktas supposedly, and that's completely false. It's been denied, I think, by club officials. But people are putting those things out there. For Besiktas, it would be because the throw-in before the penalty for Gazisehir was a rules infraction because the guy threw the ball in with only 1 foot on the ground, and and then here, of course, the whole debate is, was Cisse in the box and is that against the rules and blah and blah. But your definitive answer, what's your opinion? Should this match be replayed based on that?
No.
There you have it.
I think it's there purely for show and nothing else.
Yeah, I can't imagine this match being replayed either. Plus, I think, it would be a tremendous loss of goodwill for Fenerbahçe from, anyone. Obviously, you don't need the neutrals' perspective, I guess, but I think you don't want, the entire country, except for your own fan base, to turn against you this early in the season, like we kind of probably had with Galatasaray after the Rizespor match last season, where I think everyone was like, wait a second, but it was too late then to stop their momentum. But I think if something like that happens early on in the season, that could have a negative impact. So I think it would actually probably be more detrimental for Fenerbahçe than anything. Plus, they'd still have to win it. What if they don't win it after that? That would be a massive motivational blow too, I think. So I think it's best just to move on.
Move on. It's the theatre that we love called the Turkish Super League.
Yeah. Yakup, you've been very quiet. What's your impression of Alanyaspor, the only team remaining perfect in the league, 12 points out of potential 12 out of 4 games? It's an impressive start for Erol Bulut and Alanyaspor. Are you surprised at all by this?
Not really. I mean, I'm a bit, because we talked about it 2 weeks ago, but they seem to, they seem really hungry. They are one of the only teams that is that seems to approach any game like a do or that situation. So I do think they played really good, but I have a feeling it was because Fenerbahçe was really, really bad. The defense was awful. Altay had really, really, unfortunate mistakes. You really hate to see it with a young player, to make such mistakes. It's really hard to bounce back, probably, especially if you're a keeper of a big club like Fenerbahçe. But I think that, they deserve the praise. I don't really think that they have the capacity to keep this going for a long time. The season is really long. They are fortunate to only play in the Super League. So with maybe the Turkish Cup next to it, they won't have to rotate a lot. But, keeping this going for a whole season long, you need a good coach, which they have. But you need also players to have, the mental fortitude to keep going. And with teams like this, you always see that they drop off after a certain point. Every season we have a couple of teams that are like the surprise of the season, but they really drop off really quickly. And I think the difference between teams like that and big teams is that, you have to have those 2 or 3 players that keep the team going, even if you have a bad match. You have to try and get a good result of a bad match. So I think that if you look at the matches that they have played until now, they really deserve to be where they are. But I don't know if they will, keep this going for a long time.
Yeah, and Alanyaspor have been an interesting team ever since joining the Super League. They kind of low-key, initially when they came up, we had the big Bomba, Samuel Eto'o at the big brothers, Antalyaspor. But it was Alanyaspor who came in with the more low-key signing of Wagner Love, and who then became Super League top scorer in the 17-18 season, I think. And he subsequently, of course, got a move to Besiktas out of it. And now it's Papi Cisse. Last season he scored, I believe, 16 or so goals, was really effective for them. Again, now this season he's already on like 5 or something. Junior Fernandez, an impressive player, of course. He's been there for 3 seasons, but he had a little bit of an injury last season, missed some games, but he's been an impressive player for them. And they just all around have a very fun team. And they may be a contender for top 5 this season for the European spots. I definitely think they will, actually, because if we look right now at the teams you would probably put in the top 5 before the season, which would be obviously Fenerbahçe, Galatasaray, Besiktas, Trabzonspor, and Basaksehir, I think. Besiktas are going really poorly right now. Basaksehir are going really poorly right now. Galatasaray are picking up wins now, back-to-back, but they're still not very convincing. Fenerbahçe have looked good, but now they suffer their first defeat. And Trabzonspor are struggling with injuries, and they've been playing some good football, but I think, how many wins did they have? Like 1 or 2? So they haven't had the best start to the season either. So yeah, Alanyaspor would not be surprised with this bonus that they already have right now, which we'll get into a little bit when we look at the standings. But they've already got a nice bonus over the second place team, so they could really, with that bonus, put themselves in a really good position going forward towards the end of the season for those European spots. And they got really close last season, let's not forget too. So yeah, Alanyaspor, very exciting team to watch. I think it would be very bad for Turkish football if this match got replayed. Honestly, I don't think it ever would be, because, like Burak said, he wasn't really involved in the play initially, and then he just got a lucky ricochet to him. And at that point, I think, if it would have gone directly to him, that's a different story, but it didn't happen. So I think, there's not a real clear rules infraction here. So
what I have seen from some people is, last week you were saying you spoke to a Dutch referee, and the referees get a separate list of interpretations as well. Yeah, I've seen some kind of document floating around online on various Twitter posts. The documents that are given to Turkish referees, which says if a player is in the box, then the goal kick should be retaken, which is in direct contradiction to the EFAB rules, which, if we go purely on the basis of
maybe it's old.
Exactly. So there's no source for that. So that's just something I've seen. But if we go purely on the basis of the EFAB rules, then it's a clean goal and should stand. And EFAB don't offer any official translations of their rules into Turkish. So I think they only do Spanish, French, Italian, and German, or the main languages for the main what they consider to be the main European leagues. So there's no official Turkish translation, and if they did, I don't know who would actually be the person to translate it and get it signed off to make sure it's impartial, etc., etc. So
I'm sure that happens. The referees are called into seminars constantly throughout the year, so I'm sure that happens. But I think the main thing as well for me, just this has nothing to do with the rules or anything, but I think when we look at these kural hatases, reasons to replay a game, I think there's also another important part to look at there. If the other team makes that's benefiting from the kural hatase actually initiates it, then I think you have grounds for replaying. But here, really, who makes the mistake then? It's Altay, right, for kicking the ball too quickly. He could wait for.
I'd say Jelson is the
of
main
course.
culprit.
Yeah, Jelson is the one making the mistake in the goal. But I mean, Altay is trying to play it quick, and Cisse's not out of the box yet. It's not Cisse's fault that Altay took that goal kick really quickly. You know,
exactly, because he's not got enough time to get out of the box.
Yeah,
which is again, it's in the rules, the EFAP rules.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's just a little bit silly. And it's just a shame that Özer has already dropped off, because I really wanted to... You guys had a little back and forth on Twitter about this whole, this campaign for Fenerbahçe on the 28 title stuff. And that's something I think is really interesting to talk about, because I've heard from other people, like Trabzonspor friend. I actually... I think I told you, Yakup, that you're the only English-speaking Trabzonspor fan I know, and that's a lie, because I actually know another one. And he actually it's a Trabzonspor fan, and he actually said literally, I think they've got a point, Fenerbahçe. I think this is a super interesting discussion to have, and I think maybe in one of the upcoming international breaks we can have this, because I think it is a debate that should be had. But I'm not gonna show my colors. So maybe we can do something along the lines of, Burak preparing his statements, his argumentation, and then Özer on the other end preparing his statement and his argumentation, and I'll be the judge, and then maybe we can have the jury of some listeners, like impartial listeners coming on as a jury or something.
So we've got a judge, we've got a jury. Who's the executioner?
Well, maybe Yakup can be the executioner.
But I don't know about that one. Being a Trabzonspor fan, talking about Fenerbahçe, it's, I got all the arrows pointing at me.
Yeah, that's true.
But if I may, I don't really think that there was a kural hatası. I do think that it is smart of Fenerbahçe to go to the Turkish Football Federation, because it puts pressure on them. It's smart from the board to at least get their foot in the door. So the next time that something happens, the referee might sway into their side.
And if you've seen Galatasaray already started, it's like a couple of weeks ago already. So. And they did that last season too, and I think Galatasaray had one super poor call last season, with the Konya game where Konya got a penalty in like the 89th minute or something that was never a penalty, and I think after that, like, their gaskets kind of blew and they went full force against the TFF with lots of post match comments with lots of it's a conspiracy, it's all against us and stuff like that, and at the end of the day, that kind of got rewarded, because we did see a lot of, 50-50 calls and some not 50-50 calls that were kind of crazy going their way at very crucial points towards the end of the season. So, yeah, we see Fatih Terim starting with his stuff early this season already, because I think he feels that the team isn't gelling right yet and he needs to find something to motivate them. And whether if you're a Galatasaray fan listening or whatever, whether you like it or not, it's a common tactic by coaches that they do, is they're trying to create a common enemy, so that and this has nothing to do with the fans or anything like that. They're not trying to, of course that's a byproduct, but the main goal that those coaches have when they're doing that is motivating their own players. They're like, hey guys, look, we're being targeted here. We need to rise above ourselves, and we need to beat 12 guys rather than 11 guys on the pitch every week. And it's a way of motivating your players that we've seen Turkish coaches use a lot in the past, not just Fatih Terim. He started it early. Maybe now Fenerbahçe are trying to counter it a little bit with this absurd talk of this match being replayed. I don't know. Maybe Yakup has a point here. But I think it's one of the main things I don't really like about Turkish football so much. This constant putting pressure. Like, I have obviously, as you guys know, I'm a Besiktas fan. I have a lot of Besiktas friends. I have this huge WhatsApp group, which we have lots of people in it, lots of Besiktas fans, like 20 plus people or something. And I remember in the past seasons when something would happen in the Besiktas game where Besiktas got, let's say, negatively impacted by a referee decision or something. like lots of our fans would be crying for Fikret Orman needs to speak out. He needs to put pressure on the TFF. He needs to say stuff. He needs to do what Aziz Yildirim constantly does. That was still when Aziz Yildirim was at Fenerbahçe, and he was constantly doing that kind of stuff, of course. And you just see this from the fan culture, that the fans expect this from their clubs, which is so, I don't know, abstract. It's something I don't like to see. I would just prefer to let their feed me. Obviously, sometimes stuff happens where you cannot not say anything. But a lot of the stuff that people are saying stuff about, where the coaches are going mad or the board members are going mad, it just seems to be like stuff like, okay, well, you're right now you're blowing a gasket over something that was clearly a right decision. So you have it constantly about, for example, a VAR decision where like, oh, how come the VAR didn't do anything, blah blah blah blah blah, when it was the right decision, and you have this constantly where I think either the coaches or whoever is involved don't know the actual rules themselves, or they know them but they just want to, like I said, motivate their own players or whatever ulterior motives they have, like putting pressure on the referees, putting pressure on the TFF. And that's also one of the main reasons why people get suspensions, by the way. Why Fatih Terim gets a suspension. And then you have people saying, well, okay, but this coach and this coach does it too. Why aren't they getting as harsh suspensions? Then and I think then you go back to, well, maybe that's the first time that guy does it, so maybe he gets off with a fine. But this is like the umpteenth time Fatih Terim does it, so obviously he's going to get a bigger fine. And I mean, he did it plenty of times last season already, and he just continues doing it. And no matter what they give him as a punishment, he keeps doing it. So I don't know how you can really. And it's a shame Özer isn't on here anymore, because I know he was very outspoken about the Fatih Terim suspension, but. I don't know, at this point, I think after all the complaining he constantly does and constantly putting pressure on the refs, as the federation, at some point you just have to, it's the pot that's boiling over.
I mean, it's the game next to the game, It isn't something that is only happening in football. It happens in pretty much every major sport. And Fatih Terim and the big coaches do know, and the big teams do know that, there is a payoff to crying. It might sound a little bit weird, but there is a payoff to crying and to, complaining. And you see it a lot when you talked about, being in a big group of Besiktas fans. Pretty much every fan is always located in some kind of echo chamber, where everybody just keeps repeating what the first one said, like, the federation is against us. The federation is this.
We fight all the time, man. That's like complete opposite.
You've got a good group then. But it's everybody thinks that everybody is against everybody, but the truth is that Turkish officials, Turkish referees, the football federation is just filled with dumbasses that aren't supposed to be there. They're just incompetent, and it has nothing to do with a certain team or a certain color. It's just what it is. And
I don't think so. I think the actual putting pressure on referees does have an impact, and I think when certain clubs do it, it has a bigger impact than another club. Look, when Galatasaray are doing that, it's gonna have a bigger impact because the media puts more focus on it. When Rizespor do it,
of course. But I'm just hoping that this doesn't set a precedent. That we're going to complain about Kural hatalar every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, or whatever. Because let's be honest, the referees are just not the best referees in the world. Shit like this happens every week. I remember it's happening to Trabzonspor like every 4 weeks or something. It is what it is. You just have to go. Just forget about it. Keep playing your game.
I would prefer for the talking to be done on the pitch. And that's it.
Well, I think that's going to cover it for this week. Burak, can you please take a look at the standings quickly?
Yes, Alanyaspor sitting pretty at the top of the tree. 4 wins from 4, so they're top with 12. So I'll give you the top 6 teams. So we've got Alanya, Rizespor, Fenerbahçe, Denizlispor, Galatasaray, and Gazisehir, Gaziantep. The bottom three, I'll start from the bottom up. You've got Kasimpasa, who I said would struggle this season, Gençlerbirligi and Göztepe. The Friday fixture, we see Göztepe at home to Konyaspor, so a chance for Göztepe to maybe get their season kick started. That's the only game on Friday. And on the Saturday, we start with Kasimpasa at home to Antalyaspor, followed by Kayserispor against Denizlispor. The evening game is Fenerbahçe against Ankaragücü. Moving on to Sunday, the early kickoff is Rizespor at home to Gazisehir Gaziantep. Then Gençlerbirligi at home to Alanyaspor. And the evening game is Malatyaspor versus Galatasaray, which should be a good game. And then two fixtures on the Monday. You've got Sivasspor at home to Trabzonspor, and Besiktas welcome Abdullah Avcı's old team Istanbul Basaksehir in what should be a good game. So those are the fixtures we have to look forward to on matchday 5.
Yeah, and I think especially that Besiktas Basaksehir match will be interesting. Two teams that missed their start, but two favorites for the top 5 for the European tickets. It's going to be a very interesting game to see. And then, of course, Galatasaray Malatyaspor. Can Malatyaspor maybe capitalize on Galatasaray playing a midweek match? So, very interesting matchday 5 coming up. But for now, for matchday 4, we've talked about everything there is to talk about, I think. I want to thank Özer Dindjer, of course, for coming on. He's left us a little early. Yakup, I want to thank you. Burak, I want to thank you. And, of course, I want to thank you for listening to this episode of Football a la Turca. Please leave us a 5-star review on iTunes if you're on an iOS device. And most of all, please share with your friends, your family, whoever that you think might be interested in a podcast about Turkish football. Please share and go and check out our European previews for our Europa League groups if you haven't already. Definitely some interesting stuff in there, and our Champions League group, of course, for Galatasaray too. Lots of interesting, fascinating interviews that we did over the course of the international break. And of course, if you're still interested in the international break, what happened there for Turkey, go check out our previous episode. We did a bonus episode, Burak and I, about Turkey's performance over the international break. But that'll do for this week's Football a la Turca. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you again next week.
Thank you, everyone. See you next week.
Bye.